World's Deadliest Cartel. How the Sinaloa Empire Took Over Global Drug Trade. This story is a dramatized adaptation inspired by real events. Some names, places, and details have been changed for privacy. The operation. The heat over Culiacan shimmered like a mirage the morning the raid began. By dawn, the streets were already empty, their silence broken only by the distant hum of helicopters circling above the valley. Soldiers from Mexico's elite Marina forces, backed by US DEA intelligence, moved through narrow streets toward a walled compound on the city's northern edge. It was January 5, 2023, the day Mexico tried once again to break the world's most powerful cartel. What happened that morning wasn't rumor. It was documented in official Sedena reports, Reuters dispatches, and footage verified by the Associated Press. The target, Ovidio Guzmán López, one of El Chapo's sons, a key figure in the so-called Chapitos faction of the Sinaloa Cartel. Intelligence suggested that Ovidio was coordinating fentanyl shipments from labs hidden deep in the mountains to distributors across the United States. At 4:30 a.m., a convoy of armored trucks surrounded his neighborhood. Soldiers moved in silently, laser sights cutting through the dark. They found Ovidio asleep, armed guards at every exit. The arrest was clean. The aftermath was not. Within minutes, chaos erupted. Convoys of cartel gunmen, hundreds of them, flooded the city. They blocked highways with burning buses, seized gas stations, and ambushed convoys carrying soldiers. In less than 2 hours, Culiacan became a war zone. Videos later confirmed by BBC and Al Jazeera showed civilians diving for cover as automatic gunfire echoed through the streets. By nightfall, 29 people were dead, including 10 soldiers. The message was unmistakable: even when cornered, the Sinaloa Cartel could paralyze a city of nearly 1 million people. The power of a ghost. To understand how one organization could defy two governments, you have to look beyond the gunfire, into the structure that makes the Sinaloa Cartel unlike any criminal syndicate before it. According to U.S. Department of Justice indictments and DEA threat assessments, the cartel operates not as a single gang but as a federation, a web of independent factions connected by blood, loyalty, and profit. Founded in the 1980s by traffickers from Mexico's western states, it evolved under Joaquín, El Chapo, Guzmán and Ismael, El Mayo, Zambada into a global narcotics conglomerate. Even after El Chapo's arrest and extradition in 2017, the network didn't die, it diversified. The Chapitos modernized the trade, shifting from cocaine and heroin to synthetic drugs, particularly fentanyl, now the leading cause of overdose deaths in the United States. The DEA's 2024 National Drug Threat Assessment calls the Sinaloa Cartel the most powerful and sophisticated drug trafficking organization on Earth. Its reach spans 5 continents, more than 50 countries, and billions of dollars in annual revenue. The Mountain Labs. High in the Sierra Madre Occidental, where roads twist through jungle and dust, the cartel's real machinery hums out of sight. Hidden among cornfields and cattle farms are thousands of small, improvised laboratories, each capable of producing kilos of fentanyl or meth every day. According to Mexican Defense Secretariat data from 2022 to 2023, more than 1,500 synthetic drug labs were dismantled in Sinaloa alone. Yet, as one federal agent told El Universal, "For every lab we find, 2 more open deeper in the hills. The cooks who run them are chemists without degrees, locals trained through word of mouth, paid a fraction of the profit. They work nights under diesel generators, mixing imported precursors from China and India. The smell of chemicals lingers in the air for miles. A single batch can be worth millions once it crosses the U.S. border. And it does cross, in ways as sophisticated as any multinational logistics chain. Hidden compartments in freight trucks. Commercial containers routed through legitimate ports. Drones, submarines, and couriers using encrypted messaging apps to coordinate across borders. Every step is documented somewhere in DEA seizures, customs reports, or Interpol operations in Spain and Australia tracing identical shipments back to Sinaloa. The money machine. Every year, billions in drug profits are laundered through real estate, casinos, cryptocurrency, and shell companies across the globe. Investigations by FinCEN and Europol describe how the cartel exploits financial loopholes, routing dollars through front businesses from Los Angeles to Madrid. At street level, the money flows in small, untraceable transactions, but at the top, it becomes an empire of property and influence. An analysis by Insight Crime and Forbes Mexico estimated the cartel's assets at over $10 billion, though the real figure may be higher. This scale is what makes the Sinaloa Cartel different from traditional gangs. It doesn't just control drug routes, it manipulates markets. In many regions, cartel money sustains entire local economies. Construction projects, political campaigns, and community aid programs are quietly funded by narco capital. In Culiacan, schools and hospitals bear the fingerprints of the same organization that floods American cities with fentanyl. For many residents, the cartel is not just feared, it's necessary. The rule of El Mayo. At the heart of this machine is a man almost no one has seen. Ismael, El Mayo Zambada, co-founder of the Sinaloa Cartel, has never spent a day in prison. Despite being wanted by the United States for more than 2 decades, he has outmaneuvered every operation to capture him. Journalist Anibal Hernandez once wrote that, El Mayo survived because he learned to disappear. He avoids technology, rarely communicates directly, and governs through trusted lieutenants. To the DEA, he is a ghost, the architect of a criminal enterprise that endures through invisibility. Court filings from El Chapo's 2019 New York trial revealed that even Guzmán took orders from Zambada in the early years. Today, his influence remains, though increasingly contested by the Chapitos, whose violence and ambition threaten the delicate balance of Sinaloa's empire. The United States connection. Across the border, in Phoenix and Los Angeles, U.S. authorities fight a losing battle. Every major fentanyl seizure tells the same story: pills pressed in Sinaloa, smuggled through Sonora, sold in American suburbs. The DEA has traced overdose clusters from California to Ohio directly to labs in Mexico. In 2023, the U.S. charged 28 members of the Sinaloa Cartel, including 3 of El Chapo's sons, in a sweeping indictment alleging a global fentanyl conspiracy. According to Attorney General Merrick Garland, the operation represented one of the most prolific drug trafficking enterprises in history. Yet, even as indictments pile up, production continues. The cartel adapts faster than enforcement can react. When one smuggling corridor is closed, 2 new routes emerge. Technology, from encrypted messaging to cryptocurrency, has become its new weapon. The human cost. Behind every figure is a face. In Sinaloa, families displaced by cartel violence live in silence. Journalists who investigate disappear. According to Reporters Without Borders, Mexico remains one of the deadliest countries in the world for the press, with dozens killed or missing, many after reporting on organized crime. For the young, the cartel is both opportunity and threat. Boys like Luis, 17, underpaid, invisible, join the trade for survival. Girls like Jamlet, drawn by glamour and promise, vanish into the system. In the past 15 years, more than 230,000 people have been killed in Mexico's drug war, according to official data from the National Public Security System. Another 50,000 are still missing. Each number represents a story buried in the dirt of the Sierra or lost along the border. The empire without a flag. By the time night fell on the day of Ovidio's capture, the city of Culiacan was burning. The army held its ground, but victory was hollow. Hours later, new videos circulated online, masked men firing heavy machine guns into the sky, celebrating the release of their leader. Under pressure from escalating violence and civilian casualties, authorities released Ovidio Guzmán, a decision later confirmed by the Mexican president himself. To many, it was proof that Sinaloa's power outweighed the state's authority. From the streets of Culiacan to the ports of Rotterdam and the clubs of Sydney, the Sinaloa Cartel operates not as an outlaw group but as a transnational corporation of crime. Exporting narcotics, importing cash, and corrupting everything in between. It has no flag, no anthem, and no borders, only influence. And as long as demand exists, its empire will endure. The business of death. When the gunfire stopped in Culiacan, the world's cameras turned away. But in the shadows that followed, the business continued. For the Sinaloa Cartel, violence is not an end, it is accounting. Every bullet, every kidnapping, every death is a transaction that keeps the machine running. According to U.S. Justice Department filings and Mexican Financial Intelligence Unit reports, the Sinaloa Cartel now operates in more than 50 countries, controlling a network so vast that even its own members rarely see the whole picture. Its strength lies not in secrecy, but in adaptation, a talent refined over 40 years of war with the state, rival cartels, and itself. 1. A network without borders. At its peak, the cartel moved tons of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl every month. The routes changed constantly: Pacific ports, land convoys through Sonora, airdrops over Guatemala, and maritime containers bound for Asia and Europe. A 2023 Europol report described how Sinaloa linked cells established bases in Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands, using Europe's ports as entry points for South American shipments. From there, drugs flowed north through Germany and Scandinavia, sold by Balkan intermediaries who paid a fixed percentage to Mexican suppliers. Money traveled the opposite way, in microtransactions, cryptocurrency wallets, and bulk cash hidden in cargo planes. The U.S. Treasury's FinCEN unit traced at least $2.3 billion in suspicious transfers tied to Sinaloa shell companies between 2018 and 2022. Yet investigators admit the figure represents only a fraction of the real volume. One former agent told Reuters, "We're not chasing people anymore. We're chasing a system that's smarter than any one man." 2. The corporate model of crime. Unlike old cartels that ruled by terror alone, Sinaloa learned to outsource violence and internalize profit. Field operators handle production, independent transportistas manage routes, accountants launder proceeds. Each division works like a franchise, connected only through mutual benefit. An internal cartel ledger seized in a 2022 raid, later quoted by El País, showed coded entries resembling corporate spreadsheets. Expenses, security bonuses, political support. The document detailed payments to local police commanders and municipal officials, none exceeding $10,000, small enough to escape national audits, large enough to buy silence. According to Mexico's Financial Crimes Unit, at least 1,400 businesses in Sinaloa have been used as fronts: fisheries, trucking companies, nightclubs, and even agricultural cooperatives. Each layer adds legitimacy, each receipt another brick in the wall of impunity. 3. The fentanyl revolution. When U.S. demand shifted from cocaine to opioids, Sinaloa responded faster than any government. Synthetic production required no crops, no seasons, only precursors. The chemicals arrived legally from Asia under false labels, then disappeared into the jungle. A 2024 DEA assessment confirmed that Sinaloa now produces most of the fentanyl found in the United States. Just 2 milligrams can kill, a single kilogram yields 500,000 doses. The profit margins are astronomical, as high as 20,000% from lab to street. The Chapitos faction embraced this new market with digital precision, encrypted messaging, GPS-tracked couriers, and small batch distribution to reduce losses during seizures. When one port closed, they rerouted through Panama or the Dominican Republic. Where older traffickers built airstrips, the new generation built code. 4. Blood as currency. Inside the cartel, loyalty is ensured through violence. Court testimony from El Chapo's 2019 trial revealed that killings are authorized through a chain of command, recorded in ledgers like business expenditures. Executions are not punishment, they're policy. A hitman known publicly as El Nini, captured in 2023, told interrogators that each region has a fixed quota of killings to maintain discipline and fear. Those numbers are cross-checked against revenue reports. Stability means profit. In rural communities, fear becomes dependence. Families accept cartel payments for schooling, medicine, or funeral costs. Many villages display the cartel's emblem during religious festivals, thanking the same men who destroyed their peace. It's not ideology, it's survival. 5. Politicians, ports, and profits. Every empire needs protection. For Sinaloa, it often comes wrapped in suits. According to investigations by Preciso and Insight Crime, dozens of municipal and state officials have been charged with collusion, though convictions remain rare. In 2022, the Mexican Navy seized 12 tons of cocaine in Manzanillo port. Weeks later, whistleblowers revealed that security contracts at the docks were controlled by companies linked to former state officials. Beyond Mexico, the cartel forged alliances with foreign syndicates. The Ndrangheta in Italy, West African traffickers, and local distributors in Australia. Emails seized during Operation Dark Voyage, Interpol, 2023, revealed direct communication between Sinaloa emissaries and European brokers about chemical pricing and container insurance, language indistinguishable from corporate logistics. This is globalization's dark twin, the same trade systems that move smartphones and sneakers now move death. 6. The Invisible War. For law enforcement, victory is statistical. Seize a ton here, shut down a lab there, announce progress. But internally, officials admit what UN Office on Drugs and Crime reports confirm: only 10% of illicit shipments are intercepted worldwide. For every trafficker arrested, replacements line up. Many come from Mexico's rural belt, where unemployment exceeds 40%. The cartel's recruitment pitch is brutally simple: steady income, respect, and family security. For a generation raised among memorials, morality ends at hunger. 7. Collateral damage. The violence that funds luxury in Culiacan leaves ghosts across continents. In the U.S., over 100,000 people died from opioid overdoses in 2022 alone, CDC data. In Asia, meth shipments traced to Sinaloa fuel addiction epidemics from the Philippines to Japan. In Europe, Belgian police found fentanyl disguised as vitamin powder inside medical shipments. Each crisis feeds the other: demand drives production, production drives corruption, corruption guarantees continuity. 8. Faith and fear. Despite its brutality, Sinaloa's culture is steeped in religion and fatalism. Shrines to Jesus Malverde, the narco saint, and Santa Muerte. Highways and safehouses alike. Drivers cross themselves before shipments, sicarios pray before hits, mothers light candles for sons on both sides of the gun. Sociologists from UNAM call it the theology of impunity, a belief that divine protection covers those whom the state cannot reach. It gives moral symmetry to an immoral trade: saints for sinners, forgiveness for profit. 9. A global boardroom. By 2024, DEA analysts concluded that the Sinaloa Cartel's operations resemble a conglomerate more than a gang. Regional divisions manage distinct products: cocaine, South America, meth, Pacific Corridor, fentanyl, northern Mexico, and money laundering, U.S./Europe. Profits fund diversification: real estate in Dubai, avocado plantations in Jalisco, mining concessions in Sonora. An internal Interpol memo leaked to Le Monde described the cartel as a multinational with criminal subsidiaries. Its resilience lies in redundancy: cut one head, and two take its place. 10. The cost of doing business. For those inside, risk is a calculation. A cooker earns $500 per batch, a smuggler, $2,000 per run, a mid-level manager, $20,000 per month. A single shipment lost to authorities can bankrupt a cell, but bankruptcy, in this world, ends in burial. Yet, for every fall, replacements appear. Poverty ensures continuity, corruption ensures protection, and global demand ensures purpose. It's a system self-sustained by the same economies that claim to fight it. The world often measures Sinaloa by its bodies and bullets. But its true weapon is organization. Every raid, every arrest, every press release feeds its myth and justifies its next evolution. As one former intelligence officer told The Guardian, "You can kill traffickers. You can't kill the market." The fall and the future of the empire. The news broke quietly, just another morning headline in a world already numb to narco wars. High-ranking Sinaloa leader captured in Durango. Yet for investigators following the trail, that arrest signaled something deeper: the empire built by Guzmán and Zambada was beginning to turn on itself. 1. The cracks in the crown. After Ovidio Guzmán's second capture in 2023, the once unified federation began to fracture. According to Mexico's Attorney General's office and Reuters, rival factions inside the Sinaloa Cartel, Los Chapitos and El Mayo's people, started a silent civil war. Where El Mayo favored discretion and old-school smuggling, the Chapitos demanded aggression and modernization. In Culiacan, gunfights erupted not with soldiers but between former allies. Informants described cleansings, entire villages caught between competing bosses. By mid-2024, Mexican security forces had documented over 1,200 internal killings linked to power struggles within Sinaloa's own network. What once looked like a corporation now behaved like a collapsing stock exchange, each shareholder trying to secure his last dividend. 2. The international siege. While Mexico burned from within, pressure grew from abroad. In Washington, the U.S. Treasury Department expanded sanctions under the Kingpin Act, freezing more than $500 million in suspected cartel assets across the Americas. The DEA's Operation Blue Lotus, 2024, led to record fentanyl seizures at the U.S. border. In Europe, Europol and Spanish National Police dismantled Sinaloa-linked cells operating out of Valencia, seizing 2 tons of cocaine and arresting 20 traffickers. These blows did not destroy the empire, but they forced adaptation. Shipments rerouted through Guatemala, Ecuador, and West Africa, couriers moved by sea instead of land. Each crackdown scattered the pieces farther, making them harder to catch, but harder to control. 3. The war for public opinion. For the first time, Mexican society began turning openly against the cartel. The COVID era, charity drops, where gunmen handed out food packages with the Chapitos insignia, had once earned loyalty. But the fentanyl epidemic changed everything. Families of overdose victims in Tijuana and Sonora began naming the Sinaloa Cartel publicly. Local journalists broadcast funerals of teenagers poisoned by counterfeit pills. A 2024 poll by El Financiero showed that 72% of Mexicans now saw the Sinaloa Cartel as the country's greatest domestic threat, eclipsing corruption and inflation. For an organization built on reputation and fear, losing public silence meant losing cover. 4. The digital frontier. The cartel's new battlefield wasn't in the mountains, it was online. According to Interpol's Cybercrime Directorate, Sinaloa operatives had begun using the dark web and encrypted payment platforms to launder profits through NFTs, online casinos, and cryptocurrency mixers. Investigators in Singapore and Dubai traced millions of dollars in USDT and Bitcoin to wallets later linked to Mexican addresses. A DOJ cybercrime report called it the largest decentralized laundering network ever observed. But technology cuts both ways. The same messages that once kept traffickers safe became evidence. Leaked chat archives from seized phones exposed internal rivalries and detailed orders for hits. For prosecutors, it was a roadmap; for the cartel, a slow-motion implosion. 5. Ghosts of leadership. By late 2024, El Mayo Zambada, the ghost who had eluded capture for decades, was said to be gravely ill, possibly in hiding somewhere near the Durango Mountains, unconfirmed, according to The Guardian. With his absence, discipline vanished. The Chapitos filled the vacuum, but their volatility alienated longtime allies. Old lieutenants defected to the Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG, bringing intelligence and routes with them. For the first time since the 1980s, Sinaloa faced a real competitor strong enough to challenge its global dominance. The DEA now calls CJNG the most violent cartel in Mexico, but even that violence draws from Sinaloa's own blueprint: divide, expand, franchise. 6. The fallout of fortune. The economic underpinnings of Sinaloa's empire also began to crack. With sanctions blocking offshore accounts, money laundering shifted to bulk cash stored in ranches and warehouses. Inflation and surveillance made bribery costlier. Entire local economies, dependent on cartel construction and trade, started collapsing. In the town of Badiraguato, locals once proud of El Patron's legacy began to flee extortion. Schools closed. The same narco-culture that once inspired songs and movies now inspired fear and fatigue. Sociologists from UNAM's Institute of Social Research called it the erosion phase, when the myth of invincibility fades faster than power itself. 7. The global aftershock. Across borders, the cartel's collapse sent shockwaves through legitimate industries. Banks in Canada and Spain conducted emergency audits after FinCEN flagged suspicious transfers linked to Mexican shell firms. In West Africa, police discovered meth labs operated by expatriate chemists from Sinaloa. In Australia, customs seized shipments of liquid fentanyl disguised as industrial chemicals. A 2025 ANOC brief concluded that the Sinaloa cartel's model has become a template replicated by smaller syndicates worldwide. Its fall did not end the trade, it decentralized it. 8. The mothers and the missing. While headlines celebrated arrests, others kept digging, literally. In Sinaloa's deserts, the Colectivos de Búsqueda, volunteer search groups of mothers, continued uncovering graves. Each excavation revealed the hidden cost of 4 decades of silence. Bones, shoes, photographs, evidence of a generation erased between rival factions and state operations. One woman told France 24. They say the cartel is dying. But every hole we dig proves it's still alive somewhere under the ground. 9. The trial of the century, again. In New York, 2025, U.S. federal prosecutors opened a new case against members of the Chapitos faction, using evidence from joint cyber and financial investigations. Court documents describe encrypted ledgers, drone footage of labs, and intercepted orders for trans-Pacific shipments. The indictment, spanning 250 pages, portrays the Sinaloa Cartel not as a single criminal group but as a global corporate conspiracy. Experts called it El Chapo 2.0 on trial. Inside the courtroom, families of overdose victims sat beside former traffickers turned witnesses. One testified that for every pill we sold, someone somewhere would die. But we never stopped counting money long enough to count bodies. 10. The future of an empire. By the time those words echoed through court, the Sinaloa Cartel no longer looked like an empire, it looked like a brand, fragmented but immortal. Cells operate autonomously, one in Sonora making meth, another in Spain moving cocaine, another in California washing crypto profits. Its leaders fade, but its method survives. As long as demand exists, the model endures. Analysts call it the McDonaldization of crime, franchise systems, standardized supply, predictable profit. The United Nations 2025 Drug Outlook ends bluntly. The Sinaloa Cartel's decline marks not the end of narco-globalization, but its maturation. Somewhere in the Sierra Madre, another cook lights a generator. Another convoy loads its cargo. Another boy watches, deciding whether to join. The names may change, but the business of death continues, efficient, adaptable, and forever profitable. This story is a dramatized adaptation inspired by real events. Some names, places, and details have been changed for privacy. Sources: Reuters, 2024 to 2025, BBC News, 2024, DEA Threat Assessment, 2024, U.S. DOJ Fentanyl Indictments, 2025, Interpol Cybercrime Reports, 2024, ANOC World Drug Report, 2025, UNAM Social Research Institute, 2024, El País and Preciso Investigations, 2024.